The first crack in the bubble lets in more than just light. It lets in a gust of wind, a taste of open air, of a world beyond the walls. And with that taste comes a raw, exhilarating, and terrifying new sensation. The sensation of a will that feels, for the first time, like its own. A door has been kicked open, and the immediate impulse isn't to walk out calmly. It's to run, to shout, to test the very limits of the ground that was once so solidly underfoot. This is the phase of the spiritual apprentice, and it's rarely a time of grace. With the first taste of what feels like free will comes a clumsy, often destructive period of experimentation. The old rules, once seen as chains, are thrown off with a dramatic clatter. But nature abhors a vacuum, and the mind, trained to seek structure, abhors it even more. So, there's a frantic search for new rules, new maps, new tribes. It's a phase of swinging wildly from absolute obedience to absolute rebellion, overcorrection, often mistaking one for the other. We can find ourselves trading one rigid bubble for another. The dogmas of a religion are discarded, only to be replaced with the rigid dogmas of a political ideology, a new age system, or a fierce identity as an enlightened critic. The old sacred texts are replaced with new ones, recited with the same unquestioning fervor. The labels change, but the need for a label, for a box with clear instructions, remains. This is the birthplace of what's often called spiritual ego, or spiritual materialism, the co-opting of spiritual ideas and practices to build a new, shinier, more special identity. The newfound awareness isn't yet a tool for understanding the self and the world. It's a weapon. It's used to feel superior to those still asleep in the old bubble, to win arguments, to draw new lines of us versus them, this time with ourselves on the right side. It's a time of lashing out, of creating unnecessary friction with family, with old friends, not from a place of centered conviction, but from a raw, unhealed wound, reacting to the perceived prison of the past. The rebellion is loud, messy, and sometimes cruel. It makes destruction for freedom and harsh judgment for wisdom. Looking at this phase from the outside, or even in hindsight, it's easy to cringe, to see it as a mistake, a wrong turn. But it doesn't feel like a mistake to the one living it. It feels like liberation. And in a crucial way, it is a necessary liberation, a violent weaning from the passive milk of inherited truth. This chaotic phase is not an error in the awakening process, it's the process. It is the necessary, often painful, overcorrection lesson in the weight of choice. We are learning through pure trial and error that freedom isn't just the absence of the old jailer. Freedom is the presence of infinite possibility, and infinite possibility carries with it an infinite responsibility. Every choice, every new belief adopted, every identity tried on has a consequence. We bump into these consequences like a toddler learning to walk, falling, scraping our knees on the hard floor of reality. We learn that declaring ourselves free doesn't make us wise, and that rejecting an old map doesn't mean we know how to navigate the wilderness. The magic learned here, often through the sting of these bumps and scrapes, is a simple but profound equation. Freedom without responsibility is just another form of bondage. It's bondage to our own whims, our own reactivity, our own unexamined new dogmas. We've escaped the prison of external control only to build a new one from the inside, with ourselves as both the frantic warden and the restless inmate. History and tradition are filled with maps and warnings for this exact apprentice phase. The enlightened masters of old understood this volatile transition and often embedded lessons within their stories to guide, or at least to name, the turmoil. In Buddhist teachings, this is explicitly warned against as the danger of mistaking the finger pointing at the moon for the moon itself. Teachings, the rituals, the philosophies, these are just fingers pointing toward a direct experience of reality. The apprentice, in their zeal, often become obsessed with the finger, collecting different pointing fingers, arguing about which finger is best, polishing their own finger, and completely missing the luminous moon it's meant to point at. This is the heart of spiritual materialism. The Zen tradition has a famous set of pictures called the 10 ox herding pictures, which map the stages of enlightenment. The early stages are strikingly relevant here. After the initial search, in stage 2, discovering the footprints, the seeker finds the ox. That's stage 3, glimpsing the ox, a moment of initial insight. But what follows is not peace. In stage 4, catching the ox, this is depicted as a violent, chaotic struggle. The ox, representing the true self or the awakened mind, is wild, and the herder, the ego, the I, is using brute force to try to tame and claim it. It's a perfect metaphor for the apprentice phase. We've glimpsed something real, and now the ego is trying to possess it, to control it, and to show it off, leading to a fierce internal and external battle. Even the Greek myths are manuals for this journey. The story of Icarus is an apprentice tale. Daedalus, the wise father, the true teacher, crafted wings of feathers and wax to escape the labyrinth, the old bubble. He gives Icarus clear instructions. Fly the middle path. Don't go too low, the sea of dogma, or too high, the sun of spiritual pride. Icarus, intoxicated by the thrill of his new freedom and power, flies higher and higher. The heat of the sun, the heat of his own unchecked ego and exuberance, melts the wax and he falls. The story isn't about the evil of flight, but about the necessity of humility and responsibility when wielding newfound power. In alchemical symbolism, this phase is often related to the concept of inflation. When the seeker first contacts a transpersonal energy or insight, a taste of the divine, a moment of unity, the ego can become inflated, believing it has become that energy itself. The apprentice starts to act with a grandiosity and certainty that has not yet earned, a classic pitfall on the path that must be humbled for true integration to occur. This mischievous, tumultuous phase is where we burn off the dross of childish rebellion to find the steel of adult choice. It's where we learn, through direct experience, that every new belief must be stress tested, not just against the old ones, but against the reality of our own actions and their effects. We learn that identity is not something to be found and clung to, but something to be tried on, felt, and often released. The apprentice's mischief then is not a deviation, it's the forge. The heat is uncomfortable, the hammer blows are jarring, and we often come out looking a bit misshapen and sooty. But it's in this chaos that the raw material of programmed life is first worked. We are learning, in the messiest way possible, how to hold a hammer ourselves. The magic dawns slowly. The true freedom isn't found in the rejection of all chains, but in the conscious, careful choosing of which bonds to honor, the bonds of compassion, integrity, responsibility to the whole. We learn that we are not just escaping a prison, we are learning to build a new home.